So please help me welcome Reverend Bram.
I think I'm here today. Without my coat, though, and the tie may come off as well. He's right. We don't know what humidity is, but this is humid for us desert rats. That's for sure. So let me start by saying namaste, dear friends. Namaste, namaste. It is great to be here. I've just got this huge grin on my face. I just love being here. All right, let me check my time. I know I only have an hour and a half. So Lisa sent out an email, and she said the topic or theme for the month was something about divine purpose. So I figured, well, I better work something in on that. And thought, well, I'll come up with something. And then it rained earlier this week. And then it rained again, and it rained some more. And for those of you all that don't know what pays the bills for me, I'm a commercial roofer. and my goodness, I mean, we've only had, in a community that only gets 9 inches of rain a year, we were less than half of that until earlier in the week. I got 4 inches of rain on an official range gauge at my house this week. So there was a lot going on, and a lot of people calling saying that their stuff leaks. So it was an interesting week. So divine purpose. Why do we think we need a purpose? I thought, well, eventually we kind of got to figure some of that stuff out. But I don't think it starts off wondering what a divine purpose is. I think for most of us it might be, well, why am I here? Why am I here today? No. Why am I here? And that might lead to, well, what is my purpose? And then for a few of us, it might lead to, well, then what is my divine purpose? But I don't think that first question comes without a few trips around the block, if you will, and getting your knees scraped up a few times. So how do we define that? How do we define it? How do we find it? For me, for the longest time, I just thought whatever I was doing was fine. But on this very myopically focused vision of what I thought my life should be like, it came with a lot of problems. It came with a lot of heartache. But being raised in this part of the world, in this Western hemisphere, Judeo-Christian background, if you will, I thought that if I had to give up what I thought, God, that thing out there, if I had to give up my life to live the way God wanted me to, I couldn't do that. One, I can't reach that, and I can't do everything that I think God wants me to do. And then I just have to think, well, don't I know better anyway? So it kind of upsets me when I think about the fact that I wasn't willing to give it up, because it was just fear of having to give up control. So Wayne Dyer says the mantra of the ego is what's in it for me, whereas the mantra of your higher self is how may I serve? And I think that's very important, but I also think it's very important as we come across things and as we go from why am I here to what is my divine purpose, I think we have to acquiesce to the point that we're not here alone. There's got to be something bigger. There's got to be something greater. And whether we call it creative force, God, Allah, Buddha, Yehweh, grandfather, whatever it is, there is something greater than who and what we are that we are all a part of. And I think that's important to realize that. I came across a quote this week by a guy named Bertrand Russell, a devout atheist, who even says, unless you assume a God, the question of life's purpose is meaningless. So not telling you what to call it or who it is or what it is or how it is, but just understanding that there's something more than who and what we are. One of the sources that I looked at for putting the message together this week says, nothing matters more than knowing God's purposes for your life, and nothing can compensate for not knowing them, not success, not wealth, not fame, pleasure, none of that. But notice that it doesn't say purpose, but purposes, the plural, because I believe that while there's probably an overarching one of service for me, or alignment, attunement with what our source creator is, I think there's multiple purposes that we have. The one that I'm playing right now is being a good father for these 2 kids. That's my purpose. That's what I need to do. And maybe being a good boyfriend every once in a while, too. About 10 years ago, I read the book, A Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren, Pastor Rick Warren. An amazing guy. I even took a study class with a few friends, things like that. And as I prepared for the message this week, I started reading back through the book. And I always highlight a book. And even though I still agree with the truth message of the book, I found myself going, oh my goodness, is that really the way I thought 10 years ago? And not so much that it was wrong for me, because it served me with great purpose back then, but today I look at it, and although I would prefer not to use the term, I look at it with a more enlightened view, that's really all there is for me to say, not in judgment, but in looking at it in a very different way. Because back then is when I really thought that there was something out there acting upon me, and I no longer look at source that way. One of the passages states that what God wants most from us is a relationship. That's what Skip talked about in his reading a few moments ago. It says, the Bible states, I don't want your sacrifices, I want your love. I don't want your offerings, I want you to know me. But where does your mind go when you think about knowing God? To some dude out there with a big white beard and a long white robe? Because that's what I used to think. And I think for most of us, I think we understand that that might not necessarily be the most accurate depiction of where we find our source these days. But where does your mind go when you think of love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind? I mean, I still have a hard time thinking, okay, go within first. You know, it's not about your ego. It's about who and what you truly are, what your true essence is. What Skip said earlier, your true name is I am. That's your name. That is our true essence of who and what we are. So as Esther Hicks says, how do we tap in, tune in, and turn on to this divine purpose, to this divine presence? And for me, we have to be still. It says, be still and know that I am God. We have to be quiet. We have to go within. If we're looking out here for the answers, those are temporal. It's not what is going to last us and give us these true answers. But to be still and go within. I mean, the last time I checked, which was this morning when I cut myself shaving, I had 2 of these and 1 of these. If I could just learn to use them in proportion. But you all know me, and I like to talk a lot. But there's got to be some time that, because see, for me, prayer is asking or claiming what we want from Spirit. And the meditation is being quiet and listening for the answers. But I rarely would shut up and listen for the answers. And that's the key. The key is to be still and listen to that small, still voice within. About 20... Oh, I know what I was going to say. I was talking to Charlotte yesterday, and I said, when I get quiet and I go within, at some point, that's when I get the answers. But not once has it been some loud, booming, thundering voice, Bram, here I am, listen to me. No, it's just like, oh, wow, I never thought of that. There it is. That's that still small voice in the back of your head. That's how Spirit communicates with us. But for me anyway, the only way I can be communicated to is when I listen. And I have to meditate to listen, to get quiet and go within. When I was 23, just a couple of years ago, my mom sent me up here to, and I don't remember the gentleman's name. I know some of you all would know him, but she sent me up here to learn how to meditate. And I guess I wasn't ready because it just didn't make sense. I wasn't congruent with it, and just doing this nam yoho ringi kyo. I didn't know what that meant. It just didn't work. So fast forward a few years later, like 22 years later, and when the student is ready, the teacher will be there. So the teacher was none other than Dr. Deepak Chopra this time. So I'm out in La Jolla. I'm ready to do this, and it was really, really interesting and wonderful. Each of us at the Chopra Center, we were given our own mantra, just those words to quiet the mind. It was a primordial sound meditation, something that you say to yourself over and over and over again. But this is what we do to kind of numb the mind. And there's 4 basic things that can happen. You can either be focused on your mantra, you can be focused on any other restless thought like the dog barking or whatever, you can fall asleep, or you can slip into the gap. And it's slipping into the gap, that's the sweet spot. So once they told me that I couldn't get it wrong, being a redheaded Leo with anger issues, that's cool. I can't get it wrong, cool, let me do it. And that was really nice, no judgment about it. So just finding out that I didn't have to get it wrong really helped a lot. So for the last 5 years, I've been meditating almost every single day. And David G., who actually taught us some of the processes out there, said that you do 3 things. He called it RPM, rise, pee, meditate. So for the last 5 years, about 5 o'clock every day, I wake up without the alarm, take care of the pee part, sit back down, do the meditation. And that 30 minutes really determines how the other 23 and a half hours of the day is going to go. And so, if you cut me off in traffic and I haven't meditated that day and I start waving with less than 5 fingers, it's probably because I didn't meditate. But David, that doesn't happen anymore now that I'm an ordained minister. I don't do that anymore. So, at least I try not to. But I believe that, we have to pay attention to these things. Abraham says you don't have to clean up your vibration relative to anything if you can just not think about what you don't want anymore, which is why we teach meditation, because it's easier to teach you to have no thought than to have pure positive thought. When you quiet your mind, you stop thought. When you stop thought, you stop resistance. When you stop resistance, you're in a state of allowing, and when you allow, you can tap into the realization of what your true purpose is by listening to that still small voice. That's the link. That's where it goes. So I believe that we have to pay attention to our thoughts and our words and our deeds, but mainly our feelings. Abraham said, if we could welcome you on your first day to the planet, we would say there's nothing you cannot have, do, or be. And your work here, your lifetime career, is to seek joy. Pure joy. Happiness is transient. This tastes good, that sounds good, this feels good. Joy is more permanent. The goal is to experience joy, and the way you feel is dictated by your alignment or misalignment with the source energy or your divine purpose. It's our relationship with God, this inner being of who and truly what we are, that brings the emotions out and how we feel. And understanding the way we feel is really about this vibrational relationship with the God within us. And this is what allows us to have our own freedom. So if every day we would just take a few minutes to get quiet, to go within, to access our own divinity, to focus on seeing ourselves in joy, feel yourself in joy, imagine only joy ahead in your life, bask in it. The universe will move all people, all circumstances, and all things to make this happen. Whatever we're thinking about, we're planning. When you're worrying, you're planning a future event. When you're appreciating, you're planning a future event. So what are you planning? What are you thinking about? Brenda just woke up. That's a good thing. It's always disappointing when you put your own children to sleep, but that's... We went to the One Direction concert Friday night. She's still got a One Direction hangover. She stayed up late. I wasn't there for the Beatles thing. I was born in '64. I just celebrated 50 in July. But for some of you were here, I think, when the Beatles got here, and you might have been screaming like Brenda was this week. Whatever we're thinking about, we're broadcasting what we want to attract more of. So what are we thinking about? See, our life can be as wonderful or as horrible or as interesting as we want it to be. It just depends on the thoughts we practice, and there lays the difference between people's success. How much do I practice the thoughts that bring me joy versus how much do I practice the thoughts that bring me pain? Tell it like it is if you like it like it is, but if you don't like it like it is, tell a new story. Because the mind does not know whether you're remembering, whether you're experiencing, or whether you're imagining. So if life's really tough right now, make up a different story, because it doesn't matter to the mind, but it does matter what you think about and how you feel. The universe accepts it as our point of attraction, no matter what it is. See, I believe that source does not keep us from our divine purpose. I believe that we are either in the flow of it or we're not. It's kind of like standing on the edge of a riverbank here, and here's all of the flow of all of God's good graces. And you can either watch it all go by, or you can stand right in the middle of it and accept it and flow with all of God's good graces. There's an interesting quote by Stanley Jones that says, if I throw out a boat hook from the boat to catch hold of the shore and pull, do I pull the shore to me, or do I pull myself to the shore? Prayer is not pulling God to my will, but the aligning of my will to the will of God. Each and every component that makes up our life experience is drawn to us by the powerful law of attraction. the response that we think, the things that happen to us, trying to tell a better story, the story that we tell about our lives, the stuff that bounces between our ears every day, whether we're saying it out loud or not, that is the story of our life. And that's what's creating more and more of what we have. Negative emotion is your indicator of resistance. Wonderful emotion is your indicator of allowance. And they're on the same thing. It's either being obstructed or it's being allowed. Abraham says that fear exists only when we do not understand that we have the power to project through and what the universe will respond to. And the universe responds quicker when we go within. So if we get quiet, if we go within, if we try to tap in, tune in, turn on to whatever else is there besides us, say you've been doing that for a while. Say you've been working on it. What happens then when the universe comes up and kicks you right in the nose or right in the teeth? I mean, because it just seems that when we start to get just a little bit more in tune with the vibration, that there's all these other life lessons that we've just been waiting to come out and pop you right in the mouth or whatever. I mean, stuff happens, and it's not a whole lot of fun sometimes. About 2 years ago, November will make 2 years ago, I got a call from a client and said, hey, I need you to get up and check one of these roofs that you installed for us about a year ago. So I got up there, and there were these splinters coming up through this roof. Think of a white rubber sheet. I put down a board called OSB, screwed it down to this metal deck, and I put this white sheet over it. Been doing that for a number of years. These splinters were coming up through the board. I had never seen it. No expert that we had ever talked to had ever seen it. Even the client called people. They had never seen it. No one had. So we said, you know what? We'll take care of it, though. We'll patch it. And we know that you're worried about your warranty. Guess what? We'll extend it. You have nothing to be concerned about. Well, they didn't like that. They filed a $1 million lawsuit against my company. This has been going on for 22 months. So that didn't sit real well with my dad because in 40 years of doing business, he's never had a client that we couldn't take care of or take care of. But the client wouldn't even accept my dad's phone calls. And that's not something you do to a crotchety old guy, is not accept his phone calls. So it really upset him, and no matter what we tried, they didn't like it. Now, the workmanship was good, the sheet was great, but there was something wrong with the board. But it's funny, they didn't sue the board manufacturer, they sued us and our insurance company. So that was not a whole lot of fun. And this is something that not only is going to take care of my family, but my mom and dad. And this is something this is a game changer. This could have shut us down. And so my dad, was really upset, and I knew that I better get my mind right just to try to help him as well. So I just knew that whatever I wanted for me, I needed to want for my client as well. And our attorney and my dad just said, that stuff that you talk about on Sunday, that stuff that you believe, you are too naive to know what the real world is about. And I said, oh yeah? Watch. And so everything that I thought about for the last 22 months has been to bless this guy, to bless his family. And you know how hard that is when you get one of those letters that's certified, it's got the green on top of it? That's like the O letter. And I used to get them at the TV station every once in a while. But it just, I knew I had to keep my mind right. This has been going on for 22 months. My dad has not had a good night's sleep in almost 2 years because he's so upset about this. So we filed it with our insurance company. Guess what? The insurance company said no. Not once, not twice, but 3 different times the insurance company said, there's nothing to claim. There's been no damages. And that really upset. He got so upset he couldn't see straight and literally had to have eye surgery this year. Pay attention to your thoughts. He had to have eye surgery this year because of that. He'd never had eye issues before. So I knew that I had to keep my mind right on this. We pay thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars to our insurance company every month or every year. And they said no. And I said, I don't know why this is happening, but I'm going to bless it. And I'm sure this is why, I'm sure this is how this should work out. Client still wouldn't meet with us. We finally went to meet with his attorney. And we said, you know what, we'll win this lawsuit, but guess what? We're not going to spend $250,000 defending something we didn't do wrong. And my dad just pulled out the keys. I thought he was going to throw them at the guy, but he said, here, take them. We'll just shut down. I can't tell you some of the other things we said because I'm being videotaped, but he just basically said, here, take it. And when the guy figured out, okay, well, there's no deep pockets from the insurance company to go after, he said, make us a settlement offer. And they wanted cash, they wanted a lot of things. We're like, nope, we will take care of it just like we told you we'd take care of it a year and a half ago. We will extend the warranty, we will make sure it doesn't leak. And then that'll take money on our part because we're willing to extend it out. But that's what you do. That's how I was raised by my dad. You take care of business, you go further than what people expect. It just bums me out that this other guy, the client, sees the world in a different way. So no matter what I prayed for me or my family, I prayed for him. Every bit of good, every time I saw his house, every time I thought of him, I've prayed more for this guy in the last 2 years than probably my own family. And then, you know, I started swimming and doing some exercises. And y'all remember when I talked about Ho'oponopono a few years ago? I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Works out real well. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. On every stroke. Lots and lots and lots of that. We're not going to have to pay a dime on this thing. They said, okay, just make sure it doesn't leak. It's never leaked in 3 years. But 2 years have gone by and stuff's going to happen. And it's not a whole lot of fun, but I love my dad and he's here as one of my teachers. I just, and maybe he had to sacrifice and do the things that he did so that I could see it and say, that's not my way. Because all of this stuff was transpiring when my mom was in the hospital with West Nile virus. All of this was going on when Brenna was in the hospital twice. All of this was going on as I was nursing RJ back to health after his triple bypass surgery, in which, by the way, he's doing great. I'll give you all an update. I talked to him a few weeks ago. He's doing wonderfully well. Stuff happens. It's how we respond to it. Circumstances don't make us, they reveal us. That's one of my favorite sayings. So what are we planning? What are we thinking of? I knew I had to, and I didn't want to think that, oh, we'll just get through this. My prayers weren't, oh, God, just get me through this. I wanted my business to be better because of it. And I wanted him to be blessed because of it. And that was hard to get through my mind for a while, but it all worked. And so all of that, Mom in the hospital, Brenna in the hospital, RJ in the hospital, and I'm finishing up the end of a 20-year marriage and a divorce. God, throw in a dog in a truck and you got a country western song. I mean, come on, what else is there? The problems in life do not define us. Our reactions to the problems in life define us. Let me leave you with the last quote from Abraham. It says, by choosing better feeling thoughts and by speaking more of what you do want and less of what you don't, you will gently tune yourself into the vibrational frequency of your divine purpose. To see your world through the eyes of Source is truly the most spectacular view of life. For from that vibrational vantage point, you are in alignment with and therefore in the process of attracting only what you would consider to be the very best of your world. So here's to thinking a better thought and to having a better feeling and having a wonderful week as you move forward. Namaste. Thank you so much.